Welcome to the City Council and Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency meeting of Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. I now call the meeting to order. Mayor Stevens is likely going to be joining us remotely. He's not feeling terribly well, so I'll be chairing the meeting for the night. So please bear with me and give me as much grace as possible. I'm not used to working all the controls up here. But we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. Tonight we showcase Mickey Gaitan, who performed beautifully this weekend at SoFi Stadium. That's also the home field of the Rams and the Chargers, I will say. And in honor of Black History Month, here is Mickey Gaitan.
To honor America and perform our national anthem, please welcome four-time Grammy-nominated country sensation with the voice of an angel, Mickey Gaitan.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there, still there. Say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you, everyone. Councilmember Harper, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Now is the time for a moment of solemn expression led by Pastor Phil Eiskens from Lighthouse Church. Thank you so much for joining us, Pastor. Oh. Sorry, Pastor. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I didn't have your mic on. Now we're good.
All right, well, strike that from the record then. But,
Thank you.
Lorianne, Farrell Harrison, Mayor Pro Tem, esteemed City Council, it's always really good to be here. I was talking about how the gal last night got a gold medal, and they don't normally show the Star-Spangled Banner anymore, but this was an African-American gal who had never won a medal, never been in the Olympics, and she had her hand over her heart, and she was just crying and crying and crying, man. We do love our country, don't we?
We do.
I look up there, I see in God we trust, and with February being the month of love, you wonder what God has to say about love. And the book that I read says God is love, and here's what he has to say about that. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. Love is not irritable, and love keeps no records of wrongs. I use that one in every marriage ceremony I conduct. Keeps no records of wrongs. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to lift up my voice in this great chamber, Lord, to enact a prayer that, God, you would bless this city council, bless this wonderful city of Costa Mesa. It's such a great town, Lord, with great people in leadership, and I know that firsthand. And Lord, I pray that you would give them wisdom tonight and sprinkle it with love and understanding. And Lord, help us to be just in every decision we make. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. City Clerk, will you please do the roll?
Councilmember Chavez.
Here.
Councilmember Gameros. Councilmember Harlan.
Here.
Councilmember Harper. Councilmember Reynolds. Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Here.
And Mayor Stevens,
Here.
participating via Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before I forget, I do want to let everyone know that consent calendar item number 8 has been withdrawn from the agenda. This is the traffic signal synchronization project for Baker Placentia. Okay, now we get to do some fun stuff. So some of you may have heard that Hank Lloyd is retiring. He's one of the most prominent names in Orange County tennis. And he and his wife of 42 years, Maureen, have operated the Costa Mesa Tennis Center for 24 years. The Costa Mesa Tennis Center has served as a popular competition training site for the California Tennis Association top 14 and under players. And Hank has been a longtime fixture in coaching, including a 6-year stint as the head pro at Anaheim Hills Racket Club. He also brought pro tennis to Costa Mesa through a Pro Futures tournament from 2002 to 2018. And based on the volume of emails I have received, you will be very, very dearly missed. And so if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, Hank, and Maureen, certainly we'd like to have you up there if you'd like to say a few words, and then we'll do the proclamation part.
Well, this is a difficult or tough time, and it's been something that's come to fruition with myself and Maureen, and this, I got to make sure I say this sincerely. This is the lady behind the curtain, believe me. Everything and all the things I've done, she's been a part of it, and it's been obviously very special. So with that, you know, it's time to spend some time outside of what we've been doing. But I have to say to thank you to the city of Costa Mesa for the opportunity. It's been an experience that I treasure, especially with the relationships that we've made with the kids that have grown through Costa Mesa Tennis Center, developing a game and having some great concepts with life skills and all. And what's really something special when they come back and give you that. And especially when they come back and I'm looking at somebody there and it's mom and dad and they forgot, you know, you guys, you taught me. And there's my kids, you're teaching them now, which is just incredible. But as time goes on, but I'm very appreciative, very grateful, especially with the family that we have behind us here. It's been just the best of times. And I want to thank you all so very much for all this. All right, go ahead.
I can't talk because I'll start crying. So thank you all so much. We love all of you, and thank you.
Well, don't sit down quite yet. I know Councilmember Harper wanted to say some, or excuse me, Harlan wanted to say some additional words and present you with the proclamation. So if you want to head down there, we'll do that first, and then we'll do a group photo, and folks can give you hugs and take pictures with you.
Take your mask off.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Well, I don't get to do this often, actually never. So you're my first with the proclamation. But it's really my privilege and honor to give this to you. And when I knew you were retiring, I told John Stevens immediately, okay, this is mine to deliver. So, but you know, Andrea said all the testament to all the work that you've done here. For me personally, you know, you're one of the first people I met when I moved to Costa Mesa 16 years ago. My home has always been on the tennis court, so it's first place I started. And, you know, you said Maureen is the woman behind the curtain. She's the first person I see in the pro shop. Always with a smile. And, you know, you've done so much, both of you, for our community. You're both fixtures in the tennis world here, but you've also been great ambassadors for Costa Mesa and stewards of Costa Mesa Tennis Center. So I'm incredibly sad to see you guys go, but you've built a great legacy here. And I just want to say congratulations and wish you the best.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Council, let's head down there for a photo.
We're going to take a
Oh, boy, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I know. All right. We got one more proclamation to go here. This proclamation is for Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month. Every month of February, young people across the country join together to raise awareness about the issue of teen dating violence through Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month. This annual month-long push focuses on advocacy and education to stop dating abuse before it starts. Human Options is a nonprofit in Orange County, igniting social change for 40 years by leading a collective county-wide response in service of those affected by abuse. Human Options are empowering every person and family in Orange County to experience lives free from fear. So today, Arzu Shabazi from Human Options will join us to help spread this important message. Ms. Shabazi, would you come to the mic? Thank you. Let me turn it on. There you go.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the incredible honor, and more importantly for shining the light this month. It is so important for us in the nature of our work. We know 1 in 4 teens will be and/or are in an unhealthy or an abusive relationship, and we know abuse takes many shapes and forms beyond just the typical battered and bruised individual. The numbers that we see are skyrocketing, and it starts really young, unfortunately. So we appreciate you shining the light this month with us. For anybody who's interested in gaining more information about just Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, the campaign, we also have a free virtual conference this Thursday evening from 5 to 8. All of it's free and accessible for everyone in the community. So www.immuneoptions.org/TDVAM 2022. So thank you so much for the honor and the recognition.
Thank you very much. So I'll just read a few lines from the proclamation, and then we'll also go down there and meet with Ms. Shabazi. So teen dating violence is a serious problem. Studies show that 1 in 4 teens will be in an unhealthy or abusive relationship. Teen dating violence is a pattern of behaviors including verbal, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, which can occur in person or on social media. The theme for February 22 is to promote hashtag healthy love, and all those participating are encouraged to wear orange, I'm a little off, but orange, to raise awareness about dating violence. On behalf of the city, we proclaim the month of February 2022 as Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month and encourage all residents to join in supporting communities to empower teens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, you can join me down there?
Thank you.
Well, Manny.
Okay, moving right along here. We are now on public comments for matters not listed on the agenda. Public comments will be heard at this time on items that are not on the agenda, and you can also comment on consent calendar items at this time. Each member of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak. First, we'll take comments from those in the council chambers, and then we'll go to Zoom. This is one time period for each group, and there'll be no go back and forth between the two. Again, this is for items not on the agenda. So, all right, it looks like we've got our first speaker.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
might I just chime in really quickly and
Please.
report out that there was no reportable action taken in closed session this evening?
Oh, thank you. I might have missed that part. Go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Flo Martin, 55-year Costa Mesa resident here. I was an interpreter for the '84 Olympics at the swim venue in 1984, and that was the year that Greg Louganis won bunches of gold medals. And I must admit, every time we heard that Star-Spangled Banner, I got choked up. As an immigrant to this country, that standard is dear to my heart. Anyway, this morning in the New York Times, big article, vehicle crashes are surging. Traffic deaths are surging during the pandemic. According to the Costa Mesa Crime Info app, starting at midnight this morning until around 4:30 this afternoon, it reported 5 traffic stops, 13 car crashes, 3 of which were hit and run, 1 non-injury, and 9 with injury. I did read all the materials that were posted online about Consent Calendar 8, the traffic signal synchronization project. On page 31, there were multiple references to high pedestrian activity or heavy pedestrian activity. I also saw reference to high accidents recorded here in recent years, several times along the corridor of Baker and Placentia. That was on page 31 of that report. And then I read, to my astonishment, on page 33, and I'm quoting, "All timings will accommodate the minimum pedestrian and bicycle times while providing the maximized throughput." for cars. OCTA says that traffic synchronization increases travel speeds an average of 5 to 15%. I contacted John Bouders, mayor of Emeryville this morning, and asked him, what do you think about traffic synchronization? And he said simply, traffic throughput. He is an advocate for active transportation, and I have contributed actually to his campaign. I request that the traffic synchronization project for Baker through Placentia down to the end of Placentia be withdrawn.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Do you have anybody else in council chambers? Go ahead.
Can I take my mask off?
Sure, to speak.
Good evening. I'm a resident since 1998 here in Orange County, here in Costa Mesa. I've been here for 11 years. And my concern is about loudness in my neighborhood. That's all I can pay right now, living on Bay Street and Newport Boulevard. Across our apartment complex is Tony's Bar. It's a big deal. It's a loud noise all the time, people fighting outside, and now a taco truck. This beginning of the year, they put the taco trucks in September, but it's been problems all the time. So it was a big fight, and it was a really, really loud things. And then I emailed Evis, and I emailed the fight so she can see what I was talking about. There is no solution, but whether there is parties in the neighborhood, they will call the cops, and the cops will show right away. So I just want something equal whenever we call for loudness on that place so they can show up. So I'm requesting a solution because there is always making noise. Now the landscaping man is coming on Saturdays at 6:30 o'clock in the morning. So I just want to know what are the codes for this. So is there a particular person that I need to speak with? Because I'm willing to do it, because sometimes my kids go out to practice any sports, and my son has to be at 6 o'clock somewhere, and then we cannot sleep. It's getting loud and louder and louder, so I need a solution for my family, and I need protection, because the taco trucks are really violent. That's all I need, please.
Thank you much for your comment. I'm looking around, and it looks like the police chief jumped up with his card, so I think he might be able to talk to you directly after this.
Thank you.
Anybody else in chambers want to speak? All right, who do we have on Zoom?
Our first speaker is Jimmy Vivar.
Go ahead, Mr. Vivar.
All right, good evening, Council. My name is Jimmy Vivar. I gave a public comment 2 weeks ago, rather, about an incident on January 1st, January 3rd, that Costa Mesa PD responded to. And I submitted a memo to city, and the Costa Mesa PD looked pretty quickly into the matter, so that the day after the previous council meeting, I spoke to a police lieutenant and to Chief Lawrence himself, who both reached out to me. And it seems that there was a bit of misunderstanding and miscommunication with the information that was relayed to me by the Costa Mesa PD Records Department. So I'm happy to report that, that there seems to have not been any impropriety or anything wrong with conduct of the PD officer who responded. So I just want to thank Costa Mesa PD for responding so quickly and looking into the matter, and for the service of the Costa Mesa police officers for the safety of the community and residents of Costa Mesa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Dave Everett, please.
Mr. Everett.
Hi, I wanted to clarify a little bit about the PLA Community Workforce Agreement that was passed last City Council meeting. I'm testifying today as a Costa Mesa resident who represents the Western Electrical Contractors Association here in Southern California. And WECA strongly opposes government mandated PLAs on public construction because PLAs are special interest schemes that end open, fair, and competitive bidding on these public works projects. And this is my main point, is that the less competition and the fewer bids will increase the cost of construction in Costa Mesa projects that are subject to the PLA. And it'll increase the cost much more than the council and specifically Mayor Stevens indicated last council meeting when they approved this wasteful, discriminatory special interest deal. The mayor and council and staff were all trying to pretend that the 0.8% administrative cost was the only cost to this special interest deal. In fact, I think the mayor even was pretending that this would only cost $28,000 a year to Costa Mesa taxpayers, when the reality could not be further from that. First off, 0.8% of $80 million is $640,000, not $28,000. So that's a lot more to administrate the special interest agreement. And especially since it goes on for 5 years, that would end up being $3.2 million over the life of the agreement, just for the administration. But much more importantly, as I've repeatedly documented for the mayor, council members, and staff, the true cost to Costa Mesa taxpayers for this special interest deal is in the reduction of competition and bids. With the project labor agreement or community workforce agreement, doesn't matter what you call it, the language is always exactly the same. A project that would get 25 to 30 bids would only get 4 to 5 bids with a PLA. So the bids come in at a higher price. How much higher, you ask? 15% higher. So if the city spent $52 million on public works construction, the CWA PLA special interest deal would waste $7.8 million taxpayer dollars. If the city spends $80 million on public works construction, that would waste $12 million. If they spent $200 million, it would waste $30 million. These are all figures that have been thrown out by staff about how much we're going to spend for this construction deal. And the mayor also said that nobody backed those up. I just wanted to submit for the record 4 different studies showing the cost of PLAs. One of them shows 18%, 2 show 15%, and 1 shows 20%. I used the 15% figure earlier for all those calculations. And so I didn't add the $3.2 million of administrative costs. So this deal would be much, much more expensive than we let on at the last meeting. So thank you for your time. I'll submit these studies and also my comments for the record to the city clerk via email. And I appreciate the time and hearing me out. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Mark Vucevic, please.
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much. I wanted to make a comment about the renovations or the quote-unquote improvements that are being done on Randolph Avenue from Baker Street to Bristol, including St. Clair. I want to acknowledge some of the benefits of the project while also talking about some concerns I have, and also acknowledging that these concerns are some of them which are probably coming too late. I am really happy that we are prioritizing some pedestrian infrastructure and that we're really calming that area. I think each of those current 2 lanes that exist right there are something like 30 feet wide each, which encourage people going almost 50 miles an hour down this little tiny patch of road. And I know that because I work right across the street at the lab. One of my main concerns with this project, though, is that there is all of this plethora of parking that's being built, all right next to a huge amount of businesses that sell alcohol. And I say this as someone who bartends at night, that I really don't like when the city and when developments encourage driving around alcohol. I don't know if the council is aware that Costa Mesa ranks number 8 per DUIs per capita in the country, not the state or Orange County, in the country. And I can share those statistics with the council if they're interested. And that we encourage more driving to areas that have breweries and bars. To me is just saddens me. But on top of all that, all the parking is free and unpaid for, really paid for by Costa Mesa taxpayers. When we know that this parking is just going to go for Huntington Beach and Newport Beach residents going to our breweries and our bars, when it could just be a paid parking system. To me, I just feel like at the very least we can make this paid parking and actually get some revenue to upkeep this street for the future. Yeah, so that's all my comments on Randolph. I appreciate being heard on that. And just, without dwelling and belaboring the point, I just want to echo every single one of Ms. Martin's comments on the traffic signalization, or basically the making cars speed even more in Costa Mesa synchronization that was on the agenda and that is no longer on the agenda. I think there was a line in the report that said that cars would go 15% faster on Victoria. Do we really need that? So I hope that's not the case. Thank you so much, Council. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
David Martinez, please.
All right. Thank you, Council, for taking my comment. I see that consent calendar 8 is no longer on the agenda, so public comment it is. Usually in staff reports regarding transportation, there's always a small paragraph somewhere that says something like, will improve the experience for pedestrians and cyclists. That staff report also had this, but when I started reading into the actual project and the consultant's proposal, there were just a lot of concerns for me. Like Ms. Martin said, it says that they will accommodate the minimum pedestrian and bicycle times while providing the maximized throughput. That is very concerning for a city who's trying to really do better in active transportation, which we can see from our new budget priorities. The Bike, Way, and Walkability Committee was presented with the proposed capital improvement projects, and they're all active transportation, which is great. But then we see this and we think, well, what's going on here? Are you really trying to maximize that? A lot of the intersections listed in their report are labeled high or heavy pedestrian activity, but leading pedestrian intervals, LPIs, are only mentioned once, and it's mentioned in passing as something that may or may not be considered, which is very discouraging. The proposed project limits has 2 corridors that are on the pedestrian master plan, which isn't approved yet, and hopefully it will be soon so that we can actually get those improvements in with this project, because without that, it is not great for pedestrians. It's just not good. Also, the consultant just doesn't seem to have an understanding of active transportation in general. They said that Baker, Placentia, and Victoria have had road diet improvements, which just no, absolutely not. This whole project is just a big yikes, and it doesn't really improve anyone's ability to walk or bike around the city. The staff report mentions bicycle detection and green extension timing. I don't see that in the consultant's proposal either. So that project really needs a big makeover before it comes back. And right as I'm ending, I just want to echo everything that Mark just said before me about Randolph. Let's just get paid parking there. That's the best we can do if we have to encourage people to drive to bars, which is, a great idea. So let's get paid parking there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Cynthia McDonald, please.
Good, Ms. McDonald.
Good evening, Council. You're making me choose between 2 items tonight I'd like to speak on. One is being the traffic that the other speakers have the project that they've talked about. But I'm going to talk about Hank and Maureen. I want to thank you to the city for recognizing Hank and Maureen Lloyd. The Costa Mesa Tennis Center is just one of the jewels of Costa Mesa, and that was because of the Lloyds. I played at the center before Hank and Maureen took over its operation. In those days, in order to get a lighted court at night, you put quarters in a slot in the light pole. And it was a lot like playing the slots in Vegas, because you never knew if you were going to get the lights or if it was just going to eat your quarter. And the only flowers at the center were the dandelions that grew up in the cracks in the court. So they've taken a lot of their time and make improvements to the center. And while Hank and Maureen welcomed those big names listed on the proclamation, they also welcome the youngest players. They welcome the oldest players, those with many skills and those with no skills. You could, borrow a racket, go in and play. We were all welcomed with the same respect and care. And if you ever got a lesson from Hank, you learned to listen closely because he gave some excellent coaching in between the corny jokes. And my youngest kid was one of those children who tried other sports, but never found one to love until I put him in a summer camp at the tennis center there. So I thank the Lloyds for all they did for the kids of Newport and Costa Mesa, including mine. But that said, the tennis center is due for a little TLC. The restrooms are in great need of an update, and it would be wonderful to combine a remodeling of the restrooms with new locker areas and a healthcare room so that we could get that futures tournament back where it belongs. So thanks again for recognizing Hank and Maureen, and I hope the next operator is just as good. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that comment.
No further speakers.
Thank you very much, City Clerk. All right, so we are going to move right along here to council comments. I think I already lost my order. All right, Council, I've got you on discussion mode, so I'm just going to go in order here. Councilmember Gameros?
Thank you very much, Acting Mayor Pro Tem. I have a few things I wanted to talk about this evening. The first thing is, I don't know if anybody is aware, but we had some pretty substantial structure fires in our city over the last couple weeks. And if it wasn't for our fire department acting swiftly, fire chief, battalion chiefs, coming in and handling this, we could have had a real big problem on our hands. So I want to take a moment, not only thank the fire department, but the police department was also there in cotangent, helping out, making sure that our residents were safe. So I want to thank both chiefs very much for your hard work and diligence in putting out this fire. I know in some cases we had to have multiple cities come in and help us out, and that's very important to know that we have that backup. So thank you very much, not only from me, but on behalf of our community. The other thing I'd like to speak about is livable wages. For those of you who don't know the importance of livable wages, I can speak for it firsthand. I have worked with individuals who did not have livable wages, and when they had the opportunity to get into a construction trades field, they could then afford a home. They could then afford to support their family. I've seen the relief from an entire family that having a livable wage brings. There's much more to it than the lowest bidder. There's much more to it than, if you want to call it, wasteful spending. There's no wasteful spending when you provide a livable wage for an individual and their family. We talk about trying to provide affordable homes, but we don't talk about trying to provide livable wages on the same hand. When we look at affordable housing, you have to make over $80,000 a year so that you can live in Orange County. Try doing that when you have the lowest bidder coming in with non-livable wages. It's not going to happen. So I want to thank everybody who is in support of livable wages. Very important for our community, and it's very important for those who have their boots on the ground, that have to swing a hammer, swing an axe, move steel around, that they get paid appropriately so that they can support their families and put a roof over their head. And the last and final thing that I want to say, I want to wish my daughter, Presley, a happy 8th birthday. Tonight is her birthday, and I want to thank my wife for putting together a wonderful, wonderful birthday party. I wish I could be there. Happy birthday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamiros, and happy birthday to your daughter. Councilmember Harlan.
Thank you. Well, welcome back, everybody, council chambers. I don't have anything at the moment. I may have comments at the end of the night, though.
You're going to make us wait. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Harper.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you,
Mayor Pro Tem Mar. And Flo Martin, thank you for speaking up about council, or what was consent item number 8. And the other gentleman that spoke, I appreciated these things I didn't know, so very much appreciate that. Speed does kill. I mean, I know I've been in the distribution and trucking industry for 30 years, and we have all kinds of rules about speeding, and we look at all kinds of numbers, and you go faster, you die, or you get in an accident. We see the numbers, they're real. So I appreciate your comments, and I'll dig deeper into that item and understand more about it the next time. To Dave Everett, who's spoke on the PLA, I appreciate you speaking up. I appreciate you taking the time to give your opinion. I want to clean up the math a little bit because I want to make sure I understand it. So I'm going to state what I think I understand about the math and what the cost of that is. In the staff report, they listed projects, but they didn't list a dollar amount. And those projects added up, according to Raja, I think it was $200 million. However, only $80 million would most likely be completed in the 5-year window. The cost in the staff report, the administrative fee on top of that was 2.5% in the staff report. However, staff said it should be more like 0.8 per 1%, which is $640,000, or I think $128,000 per year. I know Mayor Stevens said something about $18,000 per year, and I'm not sure where he got that number. Maybe he'll help us understand that. In private industry, I can't imagine trying to restrict bidding from a variety of bidders to try and get the most, both the best work and the lowest cost work. It isn't all about cost. It isn't. It's about quality of work. And it's about the market. And, I have a hard time trying to represent something that costs the city more money and could cost quality as well. I also don't think in the contract, I know in the contract, there's no requirement to do the things they say they're going to do. There's no requirement to have a certain percentage. It's simply a goal. And that's one of my main problems with the PLA that was signed and executed. And I think there were other ways to accomplish that goal without restricting all those projects to a union shop. And that's what we did. And those unions contributed, I think, close to $160,000 in campaign contributions over the last number of years to former council and current council. So it doesn't feel good. And I did not accept any union money whatsoever. And maybe that's why I'm able to say what I want to say. So I want to say that, but again, I appreciate Dave Everett taking the time to come and speak. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I want to start with a couple quick thanks so I don't forget them. Councilmember Harlan and I were commenting that it was weird not to see Dane out here taking photos of us. And I remember when Dane retired, we were wondering, oh gosh, like, who's going to do the Costa Mesa Minute? And I just wanted to acknowledge that I've been loving the Costa Mesa Minutes. Seeing our different staff members walking, in different parts of the city talking about specific projects. I think it's really neat. It's fun. I'm enjoying that. And so I wanted to say thanks to who's ever organizing that and everyone who's participated in that so far. I also wanted to say thank you to Ms. Molina, our finance director. I get passionate about things like parks and open space and trees and safe streets. I'm not passionate about dollars, but I know that the work you and your team do is what enables us to be able to work on these projects that our community is asking for and that we know that our community needs. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you sort of summarizing key information in the emails you send to us quarterly as well. So thank you. Quick report out. We had our quarterly liaison meeting. This is a meeting where city leaders come together with school district leaders, our sanitary district, and Mesa Water, just to sort of touch base on items that affect us all. So I wanted to share a few things that I thought would be of interest. Mesa Water has been leading their pipeline replacement project on West Wilson Street. They are almost done with that, and our team is going to come through and repave West Wilson Street, I think in March and April, the time frame for that. So I know I've seen some comments about Wilson need repaving. It is on the calendar. Sanitary District is doing a few more projects at the President Place pumping station for my Freedom Homes neighbors. There's going to be a few very short periods where the President Street access to Canyon Park is closed, but only half a day at a time or so, and that should be done pretty soon. With the school district, we talked about the opportunity created by the apprenticeship programs and really good opportunities there for students, broadening options for good jobs. Is my time up? I don't know. Okay. And we also, I'm super excited to see a lot more momentum with our district on collaboration for safe routes to school. A couple other quick notes. There was some confusion related to street sweeping a couple weeks ago. I do want to share, I think I learned that any tickets that were issued were warnings only related to sort of after the fact street sweeping, and our team is looking at continuing to look at the right way to balance our parking challenges and making sure that there's access for our street sweepers. And then I have a couple comments related to speed. So anyone on the west side, maybe anyone in Costa Mesa, probably sat through about 45 minutes of what sounded like Fast and Furious through our neighborhoods. I was watching the Olympics and I felt like I was sort of huddled at home, and there was this monster outside as I was just listening to cars speeding through. It felt like a loop around my neighborhood, and it's terrifying, right? We've seen the impacts of this extreme speed racing, fiery crashes, deaths. But I do want to talk about sort of speeds in general, and Ms. Green, if we have that one slide to share. Councilmember Harper mentioned speeds, and I appreciate that piqued your interest. I did want to share a graph I found from a AAA report on called The Impact of Speed and Pedestrians' Risk of Severe Injury or Death. Is that big enough? So this is something that was particularly alarming to me when I started to really learn about safe streets and recognizing the very, very strong correlation between the speed of vehicles on our roads and the risks of injury and death to our pedestrians. And those pedestrians could be children walking to school. They could be our seniors trying to cross the street to get to the senior center. They could be any of us walking to our local, favorite local restaurant. What this chart shows, I highlighted 40 miles an hour because that's a common speed on a lot of the streets we're on every day. At 40 miles an hour, if a pedestrian is hit at that speed, there's a 75% chance that they're suffering extreme injury. There's a 50% chance that pedestrian dies. If you look closer at this chart, that risk of injury and death drops really quickly as we notch speeds down. So a lot of the work that our team is trying to do now on traffic calming and slowing speeds is a safety measure. I have had a chance to meet with our transportation team last week, and I want to share that we've got tons going on. We'll be talking more about it. We have a local road safety plan, we have our pedestrian master plan, and a really exciting list of CIP projects to consider for the next budget. So we're working really hard on this issue. It continues to be the issue I hear the most from constituents, concerns about safety, and I'm really, really optimistic about the work that we're doing and the team working together on these issues. Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mar. No comments this time.
I'm going to ask Mayor Stevens to go first, and then I'll go last. How's that?
Sounds good. I don't know if anybody can see me, but I put my camera on. Just a couple of quick comments. First, I just want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Mar for subbing in for me today. I'm sick. I'm well enough, obviously, to be on the Zoom, but it wouldn't be appropriate for me to be there for many reasons in the chamber. So I'm also thankful to our tech group and Brenda Green for giving me the opportunity to be remote. So thank you very much. Thank you too to Hank and Maureen Lloyd for all the great work they've done at the tennis center. And I look forward to hearing, and staff looks forward to hearing the input from the folks who use the tennis center about improvements that can be made and what we should look for in a new operator and capital improvements there. So that's going to be coming up in the near future, where we'll give people an opportunity to be heard and engage with the players over there and the users of those courts. I just echo the comment by Councilmember Gameros about the great work that the fire department has done recently on some structure fires that could have gone very bad, and they did some a terrific job on that. And also to the police department. Seems like every meeting I have something to say about the police department, and they're really on a good streak. And just recently they apprehended a suspect, a bank robbery suspect. But more importantly, I think that what we see from the police department and really a great influence of Chief Lawrence is the responsiveness that we see, and the openness to the community, and the professionalism that we've seen for many, many years. And it's not just catching the bad guys, it's dealing with people on a day-to-day basis, and they do a wonderful job. So anyway, that's all I have. And I'm here, I'm listening to everything. I'm ready to vote when it comes my turn.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Yeah, so just a couple of quick things. So I am now on the the Public Safety Policy Committee for the League of Cities, along with our Fire Chief, Dan Stefano. And so I attended my first meeting last week. I'll give a more complete report the next time we meet. But lots of agenda items that committee is tackling that I think are incredibly relevant to some of the things that we're hearing about in our community right now. So everything from sort of the petty theft, the long-term consequences of Prop 47, other cities dealing with sober living homes and sort of how to regulate them best. It's been pretty refreshing, actually, to have a lot of opportunities recently through the League to talk to other cities who are dealing very much with the exact same things that we are. So I'm hoping to take some good learning from that and apply it to Costa Mesa, and also share some of the lessons learned so far in my last 3 years. Quick update, I'm at 49 miles so far, so I've got 51 to go still. But if anyone wants to go for a walk, at least one of our public speakers is planning on walking with me later this month to try to let me hit my 100-mile goal. We'll see if I get there. Thanks to Supervisor Bartlett and her office for meeting with the mayor and I last week, along with the city manager. So for those of you who are not aware, there's kind of a funky supervisorial district thing going on right now. So for the next year, Supervisor Bartlett represents us because they did a little bit of a swap. So now the folks, the districts that are going to take effect during the next election are not in effect yet. And so we have this sort of like odd interim year where we're represented by Supervisor Bartlett, and Supervisor Foley is now covering sort of Santa Ana, Garden Grove. So it was helpful to talk to her office about some of our priorities as well. And then I know everyone was paying attention to the Super Bowl on Sunday, but on Saturday was the Orange County Swap Meet. So for those of you who are not aware, that's kind of come back in a new, slightly different version. It's only once a month, but it'd be nice if we could go out and support a lot of those small businesses. So Orange County Swap Meet, Google it, they're on Instagram too. That was all I had. Thank you. All right, City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mar. Thank you, Mayor Stevens, virtually, and council. So glad to be back in chambers this evening. I'm glad that we were able to do that. Always good to engage on a personal level, and so really happy that we could do this so quickly. I had a few updates. One, I wanted to just mention how wonderful the TET Festival was at the OC Fair and Event Center on Saturday, February 5th. I had the pleasure of joining Mayor Stevens there at the event. Our Chief of Police, Ron Lawrence, was there, and so was Captain LaPointe at the 40th Annual Spring of Reunion TET Festival, which was hosted by the Union of Vietnamese Student Association of Southern California. And it was a great celebration of the Lunar New Year, and just a reminder that this is the year of the tiger. And so a lot of great opportunities for new growth and renewal, and of course, getting back to normal, hopefully sometime soon here. It was a fantastic event with a lot of fun performances, really great for the family. It was my first time. I did not attend in 2019 when I first started. I started in July, so I wasn't able to participate, and this was my first one, and I can tell you I will be there again next year. A lot of our elected officials were also there. Congresswoman Michelle Steele, Assemblymember Cotty Petrie Norris, Senator Min, and many, many cities were there to support the event. It was just great and delicious food, too. Glad to be back in person. Tomorrow, we will be opening to in-person City Hall participation, if you will. Many of you have been accessing our city services via appointment. We will be opening the doors for in-person walk-ins as well, for you to be able to see the departments and do business. Our departments are very much prepared to do that, and our public counters will be open, so please avail yourselves of that. We still strongly encourage the appointment system, the very creative Wait While app that we've created for you to have that predictability as to timing and when you can actually see the department, so we still strongly encourage that. I did want to thank you, Councilmember Reynolds, for mentioning the new format of the Costa Mesa Minute, and that was Tony's idea. And it's been very popular and a nice change to get out there and showcase more of our city employees. And I also want to thank Jeff and Ron just for the great work they do on the CMTV team. And next, a big shout out to Raja Setharaman, our Director of Public Services. Our city was once again recognized as a Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation. And 2021 marks the 17th year that the city has met all of the criteria required to receive this designation. And it's a great accomplishment for our community. It recognizes the city's commitment to growing and maintaining our urban forests. So thank you, Raja, for that. And also in public services, we wanted to mention our new organic waste webpage. And thanks to Raja's team for this, and in particular, Salem Afrawaki working with Arzo of my office for creating a new webpage for all of our residents to comply with the new state mandate to recycle organic waste. The state of California developed SB 1383, and the point there was to reduce organic waste disposal by 75% by 2025, so in just 3 more years, to reduce organic waste disposal by almost 3/4, and for people to eat at least 20% of currently disposed surplus food as well. So please avail yourselves of this user-friendly page and links to local food banks and organizations that you can donate food to. And then I wanted to also mention our point-in-time count collaboration with the county that will be conducted the night of Monday, February 21st. We will be needing volunteers. The unsheltered count starts the morning of Tuesday, February 22nd through the 24th. So the sheltered count Monday, February 21st. Unsheltered count on Tuesday, February 22nd through Thursday, February 24th. Volunteers are needed for this effort. We know we've had great participation in the past. Please register at www.everyonecounts.oc.org. That's www.everyonecounts.oc.org. And then I wanted to mention a friendly reminder that Thursday, March 3rd at 5 p.m. is a deadline for residents to apply to serve on several city committees and commissions. If you're interested in getting involved in local government, you're encouraged to complete a committee commission application form and just come to our website at costamesa.ca.gov/apply. And appointments are tentatively scheduled for the March 15th City Council meeting. And so we're hoping that we'll get great interest from everyone out there to participate in our great committees and commissions. And then I just had one more comment. I think, Mayor John Stevens mentioned the great work of Hank and his dear wife over at our tennis center. We want to mention that we will be engaging the community to get your feedback, your ideas on the programs and services we want at the tennis center before we issue the RFP, so that the scope of that RFP reflects the community's interests and needs and feedback. And so we'll be setting up community forums for that, and we'll keep you posted. And then last but not least, thank you for all of the comments on the traffic signal synchronization project. I'll be working very closely with our team on the feedback that we've heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you have anything?
Only to say glad to be back.
Thank you. All right. Should we go to the consent calendar or should we move to public hearing? What do you think? Okay. We are going to skip the consent calendar for right now and come back to it later so that we can start the public hearing on time. All right, City Clerk, please read the title.
Thank you. This is the third public hearing regarding the redistricting process using the official 2020 census data. Tonight, again, we have with us Dr. Levitt with NDC, and he will be providing the presentation.
Excellent. Go ahead, Mr. Levitt, or Dr. Levitt, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mar, members of the council, members of the council who are not here but with us via Zoom, welcome. And especially to all members of the community who have been with us since we started the process and are still with us right now. I'll also just take a second to mention that we do have Kim Barlow here as well, who can help with some of the legal questions if they come up tonight. So just to give us a brief reminder of where we are and how we got here. Voters in Costa Mesa approved Measure EE in November 2016, and the city formally moved to district elections for the 2018 and 2020 elections. Now, what this set up was, not a cycle of every 10 years since we drew, but every 10 years following the census, we have to look at redrawing the boundaries to update them for changes in population and demographics. So after these 2020 census results came out earlier in 2021, we had to look at whether or not the city needed to adjust its boundaries and make changes if necessary. There was quite a bit of delay in receiving the census data, and new state laws changed the priority and order of how we have to consider factors. And so this is an opportunity for us to really look at doing this now, having lived under district elections for a few election cycles. The lines that we adopt as part of this process will be used for the next 10 years through the 2030 election. And after the 2030 census results come out in 2031, we will be back here looking at this again. Now, as I mentioned, this process has been ongoing since midway through 2021. We looked at some preliminary results on August 3rd, and following the release of the data and the adjustments to the data, we held our first formal public hearing in October to look at those results. We then held 3 community forums in October, December, and January to train people on the tools, to educate people on the redistricting process. And this led to the first round of draft maps being presented November 16th. And tonight we are back with the results, with what we've learned at the different community workshops, with some updates, and hopefully leading toward our formal map selection on March 1st and our map adoption on March 15th at a regular council meeting prior to the state deadline of April 17th. As I mentioned, this would be for the first elections this November. So just to kind of go through the criteria, we can think of the criteria now as the factors we should use to evaluate the maps. So first we evaluate them by the federal requirements. Equal population, this is the one person, one vote principle. Districts have to have more or less the same number of total residents. While we don't have to get perfect equality, in fact, we should not strive to get exactly equal. We should strive to get close to equal, and then use that deviation or difference between the largest and smallest to make sure that we can comply with the rest of these requirements. Similarly, we also have to concern ourselves with the Federal Voting Rights Act. While race cannot be the only factor or even the predominant factor, we do have to respect the rights of protected class communities, groups that have historically faced discrimination or barriers to registration and voting. Currently, Costa Mesa has one majority non-white district, majority Latino district in particular, and that's District 4. In the middle column, we have our new criteria that come out of the Fair Maps Act of 2019. These are rank ordered in this order of priority. First, districts must be contiguous. All parts of the districts must touch. That means that we can't have districts where we have a little bit here and a little bit there, not connected by land. Second, undivided neighborhoods and communities of interest. This is perhaps where we rely the most on our community feedback and feedback from the council as well, on which map does the best job of keeping similar areas of socioeconomic or geographic areas that need to be kept together for the purpose of their effective and fair representation. What neighborhoods can we keep undivided is what we're trying to strive for there. And where we put our district lines, we want them to make the most sense. Perhaps as we get into the third criterion on this list, so that they follow easily identifiable boundaries. The principle that it's easy for voters to understand which district they live in. Rather than jogging through a neighborhood or going block by block, we want to make sure that we can use major roads and other natural and man-made boundaries to the extent possible. And lastly, compactness. Not bypassing one group of people to get to a more distant group of people. This is aimed at hooks and fingers, sort of weird shapes that are clearly designed to get a particular house or particular neighborhood. Now, these are rank ordered. So if there is a necessity of drawing a district for community purposes, for voting rights purposes, or equal population, we do that first before we look at compactness. And I think that plays into some of the trade-offs here in Costa Mesa in particular. In addition, the California state law requires that we do not discriminate or favor a political party. Partisanship cannot be part of our deliberations or reasoning for preferring one map. In the last column, other traditional districting principles, these are factors that courts over the last 200 years have recognized as being valid principles to consider. We can consider them after and only after we've considered federal and state requirements. So this means that while we can consider in some minor way, for example, population growth or voter shifting between election years, we must comply with state and federal requirements first before we look at these other traditional districting principles. That's the intent of the Fair Maps Act. And this is really necessitated by the fact that our current map is out of balance. Our current population deviation is 11.5%. So at some point, some of these districts will need to shift in order to balance that population. And it's very geographic. Districts 1 and 2 in the north end of the city are the most overpopulated. 4 and 5 both need to gain population. And so in addition to the maps here in the presentation tonight, we also have an interactive web viewer that we might pull up if we want to see more detail or where the district lines fall on aerial photography. This tool is also available for members of the community on the city's website. Just to give us a recap, on November 16th, we considered 10 maps. An 11th map, which was a population balance of map 101, was submitted just prior to that meeting, and that was available for the community to look at the December and January public workshops. We also received an additional 4 new maps between our December and January workshops. All of those were made available at the January workshop for the community to view. We also have a new map for tonight based on factors and requests made by the council at the last council meeting. NDC came back with a map 115 that we have to present to you tonight. And so this gives you a little bit of an overview. We did not specifically choose focus maps, but several council members did view some of their preferences on certain maps. Tonight, we have not brought back in the presentation all of the population unbalanced maps, only those that we think merit consideration moving forward or comply with the legal requirements. I'm going to start with the new maps. Maps 113 and 114 both received in early January. These two maps do not have a majority Latino district. In 113, it's about 45%, and in map 114, it's actually at 29% in District 4. And so we feel that these would be a substantial violation of the Federal Voting Rights Act. Right now, we currently have a Latino district at about 55% Latino by eligible voters. We also did want to show you the update. We have map 101 on the left-hand side of the slide. And with minor adjustments, we have map 111, which was the population balanced version. Map 101 had a deviation of about 10.5%, so just over that 10% barrier. Map 111 brings that down to about 9.7%, so under the 10% threshold, but still relatively high. We also wanted to show you 108 and 115 together. 108 was a map that 3 council members voiced support for at our last council meeting, with some adjustments to basically districts 1, 2, and 3. We've come back with map 115. Couple of the major changes are reflecting some concerns about that apartment complex that was being moved from District 2 to District 3. We've moved that back into District 2, and we've moved the Fairview Child Developmental Center into District 3. The reason why we can't take that entire census block that surrounds it is because it would, A, divide an apartment complex on the north side of that property, as well as all of the properties along the north side of the golf course. And so all the population in the developmental center lives in the green area that's being moved into District 3. So that keeps those communities more or less intact. In addition, from our last meeting, we will show you some of the population balanced maps, including maps 102, maps 109, 110, and one of the new maps we have is 112. 112, again, was a public map we received in December. One of the concerns we have with this map is the division line between districts 1 and 2, which kind of jogs through a residential neighborhood, kind of between Harbor and the current boundary between districts 1 and 2. And so I'm happy to talk about any of these maps in more detail if you would like. We also have the interactive viewer that we can pull any of these up on and look at the details. We would really like to get either a preferred map tonight or perhaps narrow it down to 2 or 3 preferred maps that we could then focus the conversation on at the March 1st hearing. We can also bring back any requested revisions at that hearing as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Levitt. You've led a really clear process through all of this, so I appreciate your help. So we're actually going to go to public comment, and then we'll come back to council for any comments or questions about maps, and then potentially a motion for how to move forward. So let's open this up for public comment. Do we have anybody in chambers who wishes to speak? Go for it, sir. It's all yours.
I've submitted a couple of the maps already, but it just seems like we just keep breaking up the east side Costa Mesa down Newport on the 55 freeway. And it just seems like it's just weird how you're putting together with College Park. It just needs to be together, not separated. So, I mean, I live in east side Costa Mesa, and it's always seems like that's east side Costa Mesa. So it'd be great if you guys can somehow figure out how to get east side on east side, not split it with College Park. That'd be great. I submitted a whole bunch of them, 106, but nobody ever talks about those. The only things they always push is other decisions. So that's it. So
Okay.
Thank you.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else in chambers? Do we have anyone on Zoom? City Clerk. If you'd like to speak, press *9 to raise your hand, and then when prompted, *6 to begin speaking.
We have none, thank you.
No one? Oh. Okay, well, that was easy. Council, if you've got any questions, put your name in the queue. Are we doing that? No, we're not doing that.
I'll start.
Go for it.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for the presentation. Maybe just to start, so we've got a list of map numbers in front of us. Could you just tell us which ones, there's a handful of these that don't currently, aren't appropriate for some reason. Could you just go down the list, and I want to make sure I've got my notes right.
Sure. In fact, let me pull up the
Or if you have a
interactive
summary.
web viewer so we can look at them in a little more detail. We also do have a summary as included as part of the agenda packet for tonight that gives some of the key demographics and statistics that really kind of underlie these kinds of considerations. So
Let me, there may be a quicker answer. So on page 3 of our staff report, it shows that 4 of the options are not population balanced. I had thought in your presentation maybe there were more that weren't population or were population imbalanced. Is it just these 4 that are sort of not eligible?
So there are 4 that are not population balanced, and we have actually not included 2 of them because they were shown at the last meeting. And so we haven't included them in this one, like, map 101, I believe. We also have, the other ones we would be very concerned about are ones that lack a majority Latino District 4. And so that actually eliminates additional maps that divide the Latino communities in South Costa Mesa.
And can you remind which numbers those are?
Let me just pull up the table. It's on, switch on, sorry. So in this set, it's 112 and 113. It does apply as well to some of the older maps. I believe 105 and 106, perhaps 107 as well.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. I'm just trying to get all these numbers straight. Thanks.
Councilmember Chavez, did you want to say something?
Maybe for to help Councilman Reynolds, can you just list the maps that do not have equal populations and the maps that do not have a Latino compliant district? Is that easier?
Is it easier to go the other way around? Which ones are viable?
Actually, I just need the report. So let me just pull up the report here. So the maps that are not viable are maps 101, 103, 104. Those are the ones that are not population balanced. In addition, let me just pull this up. I'm going to get the ones that are problematic from a Latino citizen voting age perspective. In addition, are 105, 106, and 113.
Okay.
And actually 112 as well, sorry.
Perfect.
They're problematic for what reason?
No, they lack a majority Latino District 4.
Okay, thank you. And then for Maple Time, for clarity, are we allowed to make a motion today or what map we prefer, or are we making general comments?
Yeah, let's see if there's any other questions first, and then we can make a motion to recommend a specific map moves forward to the next step in the process.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harper.
I'll ask it in reverse, Dr. Levitt. Which 3 maps do you really like?
Which is your favorite?
Well, I certainly think, the council expressed some.
No. What do you like?
Well, I think, I would say that either 108 or 115 was a map that had consistent support throughout the process, or at least nobody who was very vehemently opposed to it. I also think that some other maps that certainly are viable.
I guess I'm asking the question, I'll be clear about it. When I say what you like, what I really mean is for all the criteria that you go through, for community, for not leaping over anything, for population, for race, for non-political, what three kind of stood out for you?
I think.
Don't make us happy. It's okay.
Okay. I think that of the maps, probably we're looking at 102. Let me just put these up. 102 was a map that I think is potentially viable. I think 109 is an interesting alternative to the current district map. I would also say 115, which is an improved version of 108, I think. It makes several improvements to the original 108.
Say that again. Why an improved 108? I'm over here, by the way.
Yeah.
Councilmember Harper, can
Sorry.
you move your mic just
Oh,
slightly
sorry.
closer to your face?
Yeah, I actually heard the voice coming from.
Oh, is that great? I can echo and
Yeah.
imitate Harlan down there. So, okay, good.
So comparing 108 and 115, one of the things we were able to do was to move the apartment complex between Village Way and Adams back into District 2 where it currently is.
District 3, sorry.
It's actually District 2 currently.
Okay.
And so actually we would follow the current District 2 boundary. And I think that makes a lot more sense than moving that, which we were doing to balance the population. We've seen in a lot of maps, people moving the Fairview Developmental Complex into District 3. And so finding a way to do that minimizes the split of the homes along Tanager and around the Costa Mesa Country Club, that's a viable alternative there. In addition,
Why do you move those apartments out of District 1? I mean, I understand they're apartments, but isn't that part of a community? Can you tell me the logic for that?
Yeah, one of the real issues in the census geography here in Costa Mesa is that there is one census block that goes from basically from Tanager Drive, and that includes all of the southern properties along Tanager Drive, around the borders of the Costa Mesa Country Club, down to basically the property line behind Joanne Street, and then over to Harbor. And so all of this surrounding the Fairview Developmental Center is one census block with over 1,000 residents living in it, because it has that apartment complex, most of the apartment complex in it. And we have to follow census geography to the extent possible, or risk certain legal challenges if we don't.
So that's a population issue? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure.
So I'm saying that basically we don't know how many people live where within that census block. We have information that about 1,200 people live in that census block, but we don't know where they live. And we're not allowed to guess. We're not allowed to assume 800 of them must live in the apartments, or 1,000 of them must live in the apartments. And so breaking up that census block that surrounds the Fairview Developmental Complex, this large red area, is not possible. It's not.
And if I may jump in here, City Attorney, could you just maybe explain a little bit more sort of the differences between the institutional use and the surrounding residential use as well?
I thought you were talking to Justin. What was the question?
Regarding Fairview Developmental Center, so we
Yes.
sort of split the uses there, and I think that there's a sensible reason why that makes sense regarding the nature of the buildings on that property.
Right. So the area that Justin is describing, where the apartments are, those are used for mostly, or many, for former residents of the center, residential setting, family members, etc. The center itself is all institutional at this point. It will at some point become something different. But I think the other issue that's important to emphasize is it's not just a bad idea to split census blocks. We really can't. So we have to keep those folks together.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh.
Does it answer your question,
Yeah,
Councilmember Harper? That's the
it's
question.
helpful. I'm beginning to understand a little more, so I appreciate the question, Andrea. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Levitt.
Did you have anything else, Councilmember Harper?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Anything?
Oh, I could ask him to pick his number one favorite.
I don't think he'll do that.
Can I do that?
I think he'll
No, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Councilmember Chavez.
Sorry, I just have one question for clarity. You mentioned that map 112 is not in compliance for a Latino district. It looks like District 4 is the same for map 115 and map 112. Can you clarify on that?
Okay. Yes, and I should know better than to do it without referencing exactly what my notes say. It's actually 114, not 112.
Okay, no worries. Want to make sure we didn't hear that wrong.
Councilmembers Harlan or Reynolds, anything further?
I'll ask. So, can we check out on 112, the area that now looks like it would be part of District 1, which is east, yes. So is that one census block there as well?
So if you mean the areas around the Fairview.
No, I mean north of, let's see, so east of Harbor, yes, that area exactly. So
Yeah.
is that one census block?
No, in fact, there are actually dozens of census blocks in that area.
Ah, okay. So arguably that can be modified.
Yes. In fact, this was the concern I raised when I showed 112 earlier, that it kind of jogs through this neighborhood a little bit in a kind of odd way, dividing this community.
Okay, so and looking at the summary for map 112, it looked like there's a deviation between District 1 and District 2. There could be some balancing there to correct that.
Absolutely. I think it is a fairly high deviation.
Okay. All right. All right, that's all I have for the moment.
All right. Any other questions from Council? Councilmember Reynolds?
I'll ask one more. I just want to go back and make sure I've got a correct understanding based on City Attorney Barlow's comments. I think we were having a hard time with the numbers here. I think we were talking about 115 and this sort of area of FDC. Is this, as drawn, not legal because it breaks up a census block? Is that what I heard? No. Okay. Can you clarify then?
Yeah, no, I think the question was, that I thought I was answering had to do with the difference between the portion of the property that is proposed to be in District 3 versus what is in District 1. Is that right, Justin?
Yeah, and so I think we got to, my understanding of the question is, why not just include this whole area kind of where we're seeing on the screen?
Sure.
In the green district, District 3.
Right.
And the answer to that has to do with not splitting other communities trying to put this one together.
Okay. The only other, I mean, most of this block is golf course and park, right? So the only other community is what we see in the upper right corner of that block, correct?
Actually, all the homes on the south side of Tanager Drive and Swan Circle are in the block as well.
In the block, yeah.
Got it. We can't draw the line on the backside of those homes, because I do agree it'd be.
That is actually the problem, that they are in this census block.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I was.
That's strange.
I believe, like, for example, on 110, where
Got
we use
it.
that,
Got
we
it.
can see that all of these properties would be in that census block.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Okay, Council, may I have a motion?
I will make one, please. So I would like to put forth two maps, map 112 and map 115 for the next public hearing.
Second.
And then I'd like to explain my motion if able to.
Yep. All right. We
Cool.
got a motion in a second. Go ahead.
So I'll begin with the similarities both districts have. And if you could put the map up for the audience, it'd be really nice for them to see. Essentially, districts 4, 5, and 6 are identical in both of these maps. I like the concise lines between 4 and 5. I like that Wilson Street is now the dividing factor between 3 and 5, creating a continuous community. And I appreciate that in District 6, we're moving that part west of Newport Boulevard into District 5, where it has more in common. And now I'll explain a bit why I'm moving 2 maps forward. First and foremost, I think it's important for us to recognize that we're trying to be as compact as possible and do as least change as possible. I'll begin with District 3. The reason why I asked staff to include Fairview Village Center in District 3 is because it's the only district that actually leads into the center. So that means the residents of District 3 will be most impacted by whatever happens in that community. Hence why I think it's a fair bit to have that in there as well. I also don't like the idea of having 2 potentially growing areas in the city in one district, District 1. I don't think you should have both Will Metro West potentially and we're having the Fairview potentially, because that could change the demographics of that district and could change who they want to represent them and the values that they choose to represent. District 2 is where I have the most room for feedback and why I want to have put 2 maps forward. On map 115, we have essentially the same exact map with the exception that Baker Block goes to District 3. That corridor where Baker Block is, south of 73 Freeway, is an emerging community that does not really have a sense of belonging yet. So that's an area where we can really move it around for population reasons. But if we look down the line, that area might have more in common with the potential future that may be around Will Metro West. And SoCo's developing, and there might be more synergy going forward with having a wraparound north of the freeways, north 73 and north of the 405. That being said, I do want the map we bring back for 112 to be as balanced as possible, because I do understand we're going through the Hillcrest community, and I'm very mindful of that. My district was the one that had that before, and while I think map 112 does reflect great for the future growth of Costa Mesa, I want to make sure we can have as many districts as possible in that area, be in District 2. So that's my motion and my comments.
Thank you. We'll hear from the second, and then I want to jump in with a substitute motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that those are 2 good choices. I think 115 is the better choice, but I am very interested in hearing the feedback from the community and the council members that are impacted by either of these 2 maps. And quite honestly, if somebody adds another one as a substitute motion, I'd be receptive to that, but I do think these 2 maps should go forward.
Thanks. I'm going to offer a substitute motion that we proceed solely with map 115. I think at this point it aligns most closely with all of the things we've been talking about. I appreciate very much your comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I'll just finish it. I think that those are really good comments about sort of how we see north of the 405 developing. I also appreciate the gentleman who was speaking about the east side specifically. Actually, that was my first inclination when we started redistricting, was to try to figure out how I could make the east side a district, because it's always seemed weird to me that I have College Park and randomly a chunk of the east side. But just because of the population there, you had to split it somewhere. So do you split it north-south? Do you split it east-west? Do you carve out the bottom part at 17th Street? Like, I couldn't get my head around a way to do it equitably. So, but I very much appreciate that you've put in public maps at trying to do that. I also, Dr. Levitt, I said this earlier, but like you have guided this process in a very clear manner, and so I want to thank you for that. But 115 kind of hits all of the things we've been talking about. The line between Killybrook on maps 1 and 2 and map 112, that's not going to be good. I mean, no matter which way you split it, like Killybrook is a community. It does not make sense to split really anything between Fairview and Harbor and that block north of Baker. So I don't know how you fix that in 112 other than carving out, blocks of houses. So I'm just going to suggest we move forward with 115. Councilmember Ramirez, anything to add?
Yes, I do have a couple things. I have to agree that I don't want to see the Killybrook neighborhood get split up. That doesn't make sense. Dividing it along Baker through Adams is probably the best way that we should go. So I do support map 115. That's all. Thank you.
All right, any other comments from anybody? And then we'll take a vote on the substitute motion. Councilmember
Yeah.
Harper.
Real quick, Dr. Levitt, and maybe I made the note wrong, but just to clarify, I thought, and the motion includes 112.
We're voting on the substitute first, so that'll be just 115 first. And then if
Oh,
that fails,
is that
then
how we're
we'll go
doing
to
it?
the original motion. Yeah,
Oh,
but
thank
you can
you,
speak to
Danny.
either.
Can I ask a question while I'm at it here?
Sure, go for it.
Was 112, I put an extra 112 because I thought you said it had an issue, and I don't remember what the issue was. Did I get that wrong?
Yes, I misspoke.
You misspoke.
It was
Fair enough.
114 that had the issue, not 112.
Fair enough, it was 114. And then of the four you recommended, I've got 102, 108, and 109, and 115. I did not have 112.
Well, I had the issue with 112 of the Killybrook neighborhood that we've raised here, that it kind of divides in a very odd way through that neighborhood.
Okay.
So if that were fixed, then I think that it could be a viable map, but I think that that is a potential issue with the map.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Harlan.
Well, I was going to suggest trying to fiddle around a little with Killybrook, but I defer to my colleagues on this. You know your districts much better than I do. I would just say, though, that we have talked a lot about growth on north of the 405, and to me it makes sense having one district that would represent that entire area and not necessarily separate South Coast Plaza and our arts district from the areas to the west. I think there's some value in having kind of a contiguous notion for how we plan that whole area north of the 405. Having said that, I see some value in 115. I think it makes a lot of sense to have Fairview Development Center, and as Councilmember Chavez said, Baker Block, having that part of the Bristol corridor makes more sense to loop in with 3. So I don't have any objections, but if anyone's interested in exploring 112, I'd certainly be open to that.
Councilmember Reynolds, anything? Okay, all right. So we're going to take a roll call vote on the substitute motion. So for map 115 first.
I just want to confirm there are no changes to map 115 that you're proposing.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Okay, Councilmember Reynolds.
Yes.
Councilmember Harper.
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan.
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Mayor Stevens.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Excellent. Okay. 7-0. We move forward with 115. The city clerk is ecstatic. That's what I like to see. And so we'll bring this back for further adoption. Thank you, everyone.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I throw in a comment now?
Go for it.
Sorry. So as they close, I did just want to acknowledge Dr. Levitt and Ms. Green for their efforts on this process. As lots of agencies have been going through their redistricting efforts, I've been really proud to point them to our webpage with all of the information and the processes that we've gone through, including information about other agencies redistricting. So I've been really proud of Costa Mesa in this process, and I really want to thank you both for your efforts on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving right along. Public hearing item number 2. City clerk, would you please read the title?
Sorry, we should go back to the consent calendar.
Do we want to finish public hearings, though?
I want to end with an easy yes.
Public hearing number 1 was time sensitive, but if you want to do that, there should be a motion to.
Okay, let's go back to the consent calendar. That will require me figuring out where in this agenda I am. See if I can do it by memory. All right, so we're talking about the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine, will be acted upon in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the city council or the public request specific items to be pulled. Madam Clerk, does the council or public have any items that are pulled?
No, we do not.
Excellent. May I have a motion?
Motion to move the balance?
Second?
Second.
Motion by Chavez, second by Reynolds. We'll do another roll call vote so that Mayor Stevens can participate.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan?
Yes.
Councilmember Harper? Yes. Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Excellent. All right, now we'll do public hearing item number 2.
Thank you. This is the minor conditional use permit, ZA-21-48, to amend previously approved conditional use permit, PA-91-102, for the Costa Mesa Village Affordable Housing Development, and a request to approve a regulatory agreement and the transfer of ownership of the Costa Mesa Village property located at 2450 Newport Boulevard. Presentation by Ms. Nguyen, Senior Planner.
Thank you very much, and good evening, council members. My name is Nancy Nguyen, Senior Planner with the Development Services Department. The item before you tonight is a proposed amendment to the original conditional use permit, or CUP, for the Costa Mesa Village located at 2450 Newport Boulevard. So staff's presentation tonight will include a brief background of Costa Mesa Village, or CMV for short, if you hear me say that, the proposed request for the applicant, details of the CUP amendment, as well as the regulatory agreement, and the Planning Commission's recommendation. So CMV is an existing affordable housing development with 96 single-room occupancy, or SRO, units. There's also one manager's unit for a total of 97 units on site. The property was originally developed as a travel lodge motel before it was converted into an SRO affordable housing development under City Council Policy number 500-05. And this is the policy that is pertaining to the development guidelines as well as the review process for SROs and efficiency units. And as part of this conversion project, the city, through the redevelopment agency, provided a loan and entered into a regulatory agreement to ensure the project provides affordable units in perpetuity. CMV has since operated as an affordable housing development since the conversion was approved in the early 1990s. The original owners of CMV have all passed away, and the ownership is currently represented by a trustee who now wishes to sell the property to a new buyer, which is Century Affordable Development, Inc. The new buyer proposes no changes to the existing use and will maintain the 96 units for very low-income residents, with 24 of those units set aside for persons with developmental disabilities, which is the same as it is today. The affordability term will also continue to be in perpetuity. The proposed requests include a CUP amendment, termination of the current regulatory agreement, a new regulatory agreement, and lastly, a transfer of the property to the new owner and operator of the development. These requests are all related to the transfer of ownership, which does require the city's approval per the current regulatory agreement. If the transfer of ownership is approved by the city, the original regulatory agreement would be terminated and replaced with a new one for the new owner. So conditions of approval from the original CUP are proposed to be modified as part of the CUP amendment request. The CUP amendment involves no changes in the land use and also does not include any physical changes to the property. Here's a little brief kind of summary of the amended conditions. It's on this slide as well as the next slide. So in general, the amended conditions ensure the project operates consistently with the new regulatory agreement, as well as provides additional amenities for tenants such as an increase in bicycle racks and in exterior storage. A list of all the applicable conditions is included as Exhibit C of Attachment 1 to this Council Agenda Report. So the regulatory agreement is is the document which establishes and ensures that the units are provided as affordable. The new agreement will continue to provide all 96 units as affordable at 50% or below the area median income, or AMI. And again, as I mentioned, continue to be provided in perpetuity. In terms of the new buyer, the regulatory agreement requires that lost my own notes. Apologize about that. In terms of the new buyer, Century Affordable is an experienced owner and operator of similar developments throughout Southern California. Therefore, the transfer of ownership is appropriate. Century Affordable Development has also prepared a presentation for the council tonight, so they can definitely share more details of their experience and background in owning and managing affordable housing projects, which does also include SRO, or efficiency unit conversion projects. So Planning Commission did previously review the MCUP requests as well as the related agreements at their regular meeting on January 24th, 2022. And at that meeting, Planning Commission did recommend approval of the minor CUP by a 7-0 vote. Their recommendation did include one modification to condition of approval number 4, which is relating to the number of securable bicycle racks. And that modified language, if for your reference, is shown on page 2 of this agenda report. And so with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopts a resolution to approve MCUP ZA-21-48 to amend previously approved CUP PA-91-102 to modify certain conditions of approval, and that also recommend that the Housing Authority Board approve the termination of the original regulatory agreement, adoption of the new regulatory agreement, transfer of property ownership, and authorize the executive director to execute these agreements. And that concludes staff's presentation. As I mentioned, the applicant is here and available to answer questions in addition to staff, and they also have a presentation prepared for you.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and do that presentation then now. It's better if you don't touch
Sorry
it.
about that.
It's all good, yeah.
Good evening, city staff. Good evening, council members. Good evening, mayor. Hope you're feeling better. My name is Brian DeAndrea. I'm Senior Vice President at Century Housing Corporation. I'm here this evening with my colleague, Jordan Johnson. We're excited to be here tonight. I think culminates a fairly healthy journey that we've been on, and we'd like to commend city staff, our city attorney, for working with us over the past, what feels like a little more than a year, and getting to this moment. A little bit about Century Housing Corporation. You can flip slides, Nancy. We're a nonprofit organization based up in Culver City. We are both a developer and a lender to affordable housing. We operate around the state. I am responsible for our housing division, which includes our real estate development team, property management, residential services, and our community engagement operation. Last year, we celebrated our 25th anniversary. Over our couple of decades, we've invested in more than 50,000 homes, affordable homes around the state, investing north of $1 billion. Next slide, please. Our mission at Century is really at the heart of what we do, and we're about creating exceptional affordable housing. We believe in creating dignified homes for the people that we serve. We believe in promoting healthy futures and promoting economic and financial independence in the populations that we serve. As I shared with the Planning Commission a few weeks back, Costa Mesa Village will be our first step into Orange County. We're excited about that. I think this is in many ways a very natural extension for us, given some of the relationships we've developed over the years. Not to mention that Long Beach is really kind of our home. We have a very large presence in the city of Long Beach, which is just over the county line to our north. Next slide, please. So our journey actually began as a state agency. We were a division of the state that was created to address the impacts of the 105 freeway, the Century Freeway that was developed up in Los Angeles. As a state agency, our history spanned more than 15 years. But after completing nearly 3,700 replacement homes, affordable homes, and a band around the freeway, the late Judge Harry Pregerson had the foresight to spin us off into a private nonprofit corporation. So we were born from the state in 1995, and since that time, we've always maintained a regional purview in the work that we do. Our approach is to build and to create community for the populations that we serve. And over the years, we've developed a very nice portfolio that has recently eclipsed 2,000 homes, with a couple thousand more in the pipeline, including what we hope to be our next, which will be Costa Mesa Village. Since our origins, we have always maintained an emphasis on supportive housing for persons and families that have experienced various traumas, including the trauma of homelessness. We have served many, many hundreds of veterans. In fact, at the villages at Cabrillo that I'll talk about in a few moments, we're home to close to 700 veterans on any given night. And we've also developed a specialty in serving households and individuals with disabilities. And I think this will play in very well to what we'll be doing at Costa Mesa Village, where we have this 811 contract from the state that will allow us to serve 24 developmentally disabled households. Next slide, please. We also maintain an emphasis on master plan communities. We'll talk about a few of those in a moment, but in general, our approach is really about establishing trust with local communities. We invest and operate for the long haul. We're not a type of organization that swoops in, drops 100 affordable apartments and disappears until the next deal comes around. We really see ourselves as becoming fixtures and neighbors in a community and wanting to establish lines of communication and dialogue with our neighbors, with the city, with city staff. And so we're very much looking forward to getting to know all of you here in the city of Costa Mesa. We bring a full palette of services to the communities that we operate, from our mission-driven property management to our community engagement services that seeks to leverage the assets of a community. Next slide, please. We also have a full-scale residential services team that seeks to meet our residents where they are and helping them lead productive and full and healthy lives. And obviously, the team that is represented here tonight is a real estate development arm that seeks to work with communities to develop long-term assets that are responsive to various community needs. I think our background and our experience makes us very well suited to assume the ownership and management of Costa Mesa Village. Next slide, please. We'll take a few moments this evening to walk you through a few of the transformative communities that we're involved with throughout the region. Perhaps best known is the Villages at Cabrillo. Next slide, please. The Villages is a 27-acre community that is dedicated to addressing the needs of our community's most vulnerable, including those that have experienced homelessness. The real estate itself is actually an old naval housing site tied to the shipyards in Long Beach that was conveyed under the McKinney Act to our organization back in 1997. And so we've been at it for a little over 25 years. In fact, this year is the 25th anniversary of the Villages at Cabrillo. And over that time, we've created a really wonderful continuum of housing that ranges from shelter to bridge housing and transitional housing to increasingly permanent supportive housing. And we'll show you some images of what that looks like. But basically, we've taken this old naval housing asset and turned it into a thriving neighborhood that is home now on any given night to more than 1,500 residents. Next slide, please. Susan Price, your assistant city manager, is very familiar with the Villages. She used to be the homeless services officer in the city of Long Beach and was really instrumental in creating the funding and the connections to help get the Villages moving in the early days. Really, the secret sauce to what we do in Long Beach at the Villages is this notion of collaboration. We have more than 30 different agencies that we partner with that provide an array of services to meet our residents where they're at, whether it's physical health care, mental health care, case management, child care, you name it. We've recently received a LEED for neighborhood development designation for our community. We went through this is I think our third master planning process that we've just concluded. And interestingly, we're working right now with the city to transform that master plan into a specific plan entitlement document that will map out the next 15 to 20 years of work. We have a lot of work left to do. We're hoping to, over time, take down the old naval housing and convert it into new energy efficient, affordable housing for veterans. veterans, for seniors, for families. A few of you, I think back in 2019, including then Mayor Foley, then Councilmember Stevens, and Councilmember Reynolds came up to the villages for a tour, and we enjoyed having you, and we'd welcome any of you that would like to tour the villages. We're always open and happy to share our work, which is really the result of a wonderful collaboration with the city of Long Beach. I will hand things over to Jordan, who will walk you through a few of our projects, and then we'll wrap up our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next slide, please. Anchor Place is our 5th phase at the Villages, which was completed a couple years ago and consists of 120 supportive housing units for families and veterans. It has won numerous awards and received a LEED Platinum designation in association with its sustainability. Next slide, please. Cabrillo Gateway is the 4th phase at the Villages, completed 5 years ago, and consists of 81 units. It has also won several awards and is also LEED Platinum. With each project that we have at the Villages, and when there's special needs, we add to the staff to make sure that we have intensive case management services and resident services for those in need. Next slide, please. We are very excited about the Cove, our upcoming next phase, which will break ground in the coming months. The Cove will replace some of the older naval housing stock with 90 new supportive housing units. Demolition of the existing structures is currently underway, and the previous residents were relocated throughout the Villages. Next slide, please. Building on our work in Long Beach, I'd like to mention one of our newest communities we are working on. The 388-acre campus located in the heart of West LA. This VA campus is sandwiched between Westwood and Brentwood. With 2 partners, Century was selected by the VA to redevelop this massive community for the benefit of our veterans. It is a really unique place and a historic district on the National Register. Next slide, please. Our development charge is to take place over 4 different phases, resulting in nearly 1,700 housing units. It will range from adaptive reuse of some historic and beautiful structures to thoughtfully placed new construction. This is a multi-decade effort, which we are 3 years into. We expect to break ground within a year. Next slide, please. Building 404 is our first phase of new construction on the West LA VA campus. It has been designed to complement the existing historic structures and will be home to 72 homeless veterans. Next slide, please. Our next project is the adaptive reuse of historic buildings 156 and 157, which will create 112 homes for homeless veterans from 2 structures that have long been vacant and uninhabitable. Next slide, please. It is very important to us for our developments to foster a sense of community between residents. And to that end, the West LA VA will have a wellness hub and town center hub. The town center will include a grand hall, which will host large gatherings, art programming, celebrations, a culinary center, job fairs, and a training program. There'll be a town square surrounded by the grand hall, a canteen, coffee shop, post exchange, other buildings, and a food hall, along with their associated patios. These town square spaces will be used for several organizations to operate on the campus and provide veterans with job opportunities and small business incubation. There is a town green, which is an extension of the town square, connecting various functions and buildings. It will host community-wide activities like concerts, outdoor movie screenings, and celebrations for Veterans Day and the 4th of July. Additionally, there'll be a mobility plaza, which will include rideshare drop-offs and pickups, a shuttle bus, and a bike station for repairs and rentals. There's a wellness hub that will house a legal clinic, fitness center, food bank, clothing room, mental health clinic, community library and kitchen, and other amenities. Throughout the campus, there will be intensive case management services in many of the buildings. Additionally, the Metro will soon be extending out on Wilshire, which will be right in front, making this a transit-oriented development. And the existing VA hospital is on the south campus, directly across from the housing complex. Next slide, please. We're also involved in another massive transformation across the harbor from Long Beach in San Pedro. We were selected with 2 partners by the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles to redevelop a 478-unit public housing community that dates back to World War II.
Sir, I don't mean to be rude. Can we hurry it up just a little
Sure.
teeny tiny bit? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
We will be converting it into a mixed-income, mixed-use community, which will feature close to 1,400 units of housing. Next slide, please. There'll be market rate units as well as affordable units, both for rent and sale, many acres of open space, and over 90,000 square feet of supportive service space and retail. Our transformation plan has been approved by HUD, and we are working with the City of Los Angeles on a specific plan and working through the environmental clearances. Next slide. We want to thank the City Council members, City staff, and City Attorney. We have worked really closely with City staff and City Attorney over the past couple of months to get to this milestone. There's a fair amount of complexity considering the CUP and regulatory agreement. We really appreciate the staff's efforts during a really challenging time, and we conclude our formal remarks and gladly take any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, are there any questions either for staff or the applicant? Councilmember Reynolds.
Hi, yes, thank you. I have one question, and this is related to the bicycle parking. First, I want to thank staff for bringing that up. It sounds like that was also discussed at the Planning Commission meeting. An essential way of getting around, and cars are expensive, so I appreciate thinking of providing spaces for that. This reminded me of some discussions I've had with residents who live in multifamily facilities who say one of the challenges with bike racks or having bikes is that they're not in secure locations and their bikes have been stolen. They don't have places, they don't have their own sort of yards to store them in. It looks like the condition is written here is that we're requiring bike racks. It's not clear to me that they're sort of secure. So I'm wondering if you would be open to sort of amending that condition to, or staff can clarify if this is already included, amending this condition to provide sort of secured bike parking and storage, just different than kind of a rack that's there with a bike that could be stolen overnight, for example.
Understood. Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds. The site has a very limited indoor space, and there are currently the available space is currently in use for lockers for tenants. So the existing bike racks are open within the complex. However, it's secured by a perimeter gate, which the only access is by secured key fobs or a garage opener. So we are limited as we don't have the space in the existing structure to add secured bike parking. But that is something that we incorporate in all of our new communities.
Got it. Okay. So based on the site conditions and your plan, you're confident that the bikes parked overnight will be safe from theft?
Yes, we have not heard of any bike thefts in the past year.
Good.
From the current ownership and management company.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? All right. Do we have any public comments on the item? Nothing in chambers. Anything online?
No, we do not.
Okay. Council, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Motion from Councilmember Gamiros,
I'll second.
second from Harlan. You turn your light on first. That's what I went off of.
Is that what I have to do?
Councilmember Gamiros, do you wish to speak to your motion?
No.
Councilmember Harper. Harlan. Gosh, I don't know why the H words are throwing me off today. I'm sorry. I looked at you too. Harlan.
Yeah, just I'll be obviously supporting the motion. I'm familiar with Century's work. It's obviously very impressive, and appreciate your investment in our community, especially my neighborhood. I live around the corner, so I'm very familiar with this property. And like Mayor Pro Tem Mar, I have a particular interest in what happens with Newport Boulevard in the future. So look forward to your partnership and collaboration in making that happen.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just go quickly, actually, following on that. It's in my district. I knocked on every door there when I was running for office, and one of the things that struck me was the number of people who were sitting outside. So we've been having a lot of conversations about open space in our community lately and the extent to which people do like to be outside. And so I would just encourage you to try to create spaces, even if it's a bunch of benches like they've got right now. I know there's not a ton of space, but that was clearly very important to residents that they not just always be in their apartments. So I think there is an opportunity to be a little bit creative with how some of that space is used. And I hope you take advantage of that. Any other comments from council? All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Reynolds? Yes. Councilmember Harper? Yes. Councilmember Harlan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gamiros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
Yes, thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, another 7-0, I like it. All right, we have no old business and no new business. Do we have any additional council reports? Councilmember Harlan, did you want to close out the meeting with any words of wisdom? Chavez?
Just briefly, yeah. Wanted to mention it earlier in my comments on the maps. I think map 115 is perfect. I think in the future cycle, maybe we're putting on the record that we should look for a corridor that connects all the future high growth population centers. But for the time being, I think map 115 is perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? I don't know. You're throwing candy at me, so I think we're done. All right, so I'll now adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. I didn't even have to use the gavel, like not once.